Hi, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to go through a basic introduction of the Solana CLI. One of the things that I'm not really going to cover in this video is how to actually install the Solana CLI, because if you're on Mac OS or Linux, you can go to the Solana documentation and very easily install the CLI using this one sh curl command, so running it through bash and installing it on your system. Now if you're on Windows, it's a lot more complicated of a process, especially if you're trying to set up a full dedicated local development environment, which I'll have a completely separate video on how to actually set up Solana and Rust on Windows for local development. So the first thing we're going to talk about are Solana Clusters as sort of a precursor to using the CLI. So Solana Clusters, you can kind of think of them as different network nodes as part of the Solana blockchain. So there are four major Solana clusters that you can use. You can use either localhost, and that's when you run the Solana test validator on your local computer in a very local development environment, and that's what we'll go through today and how to set that up and actually use it. And then you also have DevNet as well as testnet, and then we have mainnet, which is currently in a beta state, but that's actually the fully functional production Solana blockchain. So you can kind of think of the Solana clusters as the different types of development environments that you'll interact with, just like in a normal web development environment where you have your local development setup, your DevNet, if you will, or your localhost network that you're running. Say you're running like a Next.js website and you're just running that purely on your local computer. And then you've got your staging environment where it's a very close to production equivalent environment. So you can actually run your entire production ready app in a testing environment that very closely resembles your actual production hardware to the best of your ability, hardware and software. So that's kind of what DevNet and testnet are for. Now, even though the mainnet beta cluster in this particular endpoint is run by the Solana Labs and Solana Foundation, it doesn't mean it's production ready for applications. In fact, directly from the Solana documentation on the RPC endpoints, has a very clear caveat here on this asterisk is these are public endpoints and they are subject to abuse and rate limits, and you shouldn't be using these for your production applications. You should be using dedicated or private RPC servers. And your RPC servers are your access points to these different network clusters. So now that we've gotten that precursor out of the way and the brief descriptions of the different Solana clusters, let's dive into the actual Solana CLI. So go ahead and open up a terminal on your local machine where you have your Solana CLI installed. Personally, I'm running inside of Linux, specifically on Pop! OS, which is a Debian-based Linux, but the specific version of Linux or anything like that, or even Mac for that matter, shouldn't really matter as long as you have the Solana CLI actually installed. So once you have the Solana CLI installed, you should be able to run the Solana command, and if you give no arguments or option flags or anything like that, you'll see all the possible subcommands that are listed within the CLI itself. And we'll go through a small subset of these commands that are sort of the core commands that you'll need to understand and be using on a regular basis for local Solana development. So with running each of these commands, you'll actually get the help information presented directly to you after each command if you don't specify any of these specific subcommands that actually perform a real function or interaction with the Solana cluster or with your local computer itself. For example, in this case, I ran the Solana config, which just gives us the help information and how to actually use this particular subcommand of the Solana CLI. So first we'll talk about the current configuration. So if you run Solana config get, it'll list out your current RPC URL, your key pair file, and your configuration file. Inside of these, the two very important pieces of information are the RPC. So you can see right now we're currently selected to the testnet RPC, or the testnet cluster, and then I currently have this default key pair file that actually does not currently exist because this is a fresh installation of the Solana CLI on my computer. If I cat that file, you can see it doesn't actually exist, and we'll actually go through the process of creating that file. And now this key pair file is your default wallet address that is associated with your local development environment. So normally when you run the Solana command for, say, deploying an application or a Solana program to the blockchain, you're going to use this default key pair file in your local file system wallet to actually deploy it, unless you explicitly say which particular key pair file you want to use. But we'll talk more about file system wallets here in a moment. So like I said earlier when I was talking about the different clusters, we're primarily going to be using the localhost cluster using the Solana test validator. So right now you can see that I'm selected to testnet, which is different from the Solana test validator. With the installation of the Solana CLI, you'll get access to a whole bunch of various Solana commands, not just the base Solana command. One of those commands is the Solana test validator, which is a completely separate program that you can run inside of your terminal, and it runs a completely localized version of the Solana blockchain, which will make it so you can connect any of your local applications in your local development environment directly to this localhost cluster, or local net as some people might call it. So you can effectively do all your production-ready testing and development directly without ever actually touching the public endpoints or the actual public production blockchains. You're not spending real soul and real value just on you're just using your local host. Now, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is when you're running the test validator for local development, you need to make sure that that's actually going to stay active and open in a separate terminal window the entire time you're doing development, because if that terminal window closes, the application is going to close, which means your localhost network, your localhost cluster is no longer going to be running. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to run the Solana test validator in a separate terminal and leave it running. And I'll just put it off here to the side. And you can see that it's processing the different slots and the little time ticker, so that way you can tell that it's still running. So with this running, we'll go back and look at our configuration information, and we're going to tell the Solana CLI to use this localhost network for the rest of our development, which means once we actually get to our file system wallets, we'll actually be airdropping SOL and getting that free deposit of testnet SOL or localhost SOL to our wallet that we can use to then deploy applications and do our various testing. So from the CLI, in order to actually update which RPC endpoint, which cluster endpoint you are connected to, you're going to use the Solana config set --URL command, and then you'll provide it either the moniker or like the short name, so devnet, testnet, mainnet, localhost, of the cluster you want to connect to, or if you're using a private RPC endpoint, you can just give the entire URL that will be provided to you by your provider, and you can connect to any particular endpoint that's available to you. But I will go ahead and connect to the localhost cluster since I do have it running here, and you can see our RPC endpoint is now set to localhost, and these are the default ports that are going to be used for the Solana cluster. So now that we are selected to our localhost cluster, we'll go ahead and create a local file system wallet. So just like any other blockchain, you're going to use a wallet, which is a public and private key pair. In this case, we're going to store that private key pair on our computer. Now, the way we're storing it, it's just a file, basically this JSON file, or any JSON file for that matter, which is going to be able to be used to actually derive the public address, which is your wallet address if you were to, send SOL to anyone else. So from the Solana CLI, in order to generate a new Solana key pair, we'll use the Solana keygen command, and since we want to create a new file, a new local file, we'll use the new subcommand, which is going to create it at this default location. So I'll go ahead and create that. It'll give us the option to enter a password for it. In this case, I'm just not going to create one. And so right here, there's a couple of key pieces of information the CLI gives us. First of all, it tells us the actual location that was used to store our file system wallet. Like I said before, this is just the default location. It gives the public address for this particular private key. Now you can use this seed phrase to recover this particular wallet on any of the normal places you could recover a wallet, whether that's a hardware wallet here directly on the Solana CLI or on a browser-based wallet like Phantom or Solid. Now, keep in mind, and I want to be explicitly clear, you should never share your seed phrase with anyone, or you should never show it in a video. After this video, I'm going to be deleting this wallet, so this seed phrase won't ever matter again. So that's the only reason I'm showing it publicly in this video. Now, you can create as many local file system wallets as you want using the CLI. If I were to rerun the same command and attempt to regenerate it, the default thing that's going to happen is it's going to prevent you from overriding the current local file system wallet you have unless you explicitly use the -- force flag. So if you wanted to override this default one or any particular one that you want, you can do that. So you can also specify a particular output file. If there's a particular location you want to use to generate a new key pair and store it on your computer, you can use the -O flag, and that will be outputted to that particular file. And the same thing will happen if you try to override that new file path. It won't by default unless you use the -- force flag or -F flag. So now that we have our local file system wallet saved, we can look at our Solana config get again, and this default key pair file actually exists now. Now if I was to cat this file, you can see it's actually just an array of numbers, which is effectively your private key that's being used to derive this address. And like I said, just like your seed phrase, you should never share this private key with anyone. So I'll go ahead and clear my terminal, clear this up a little bit. And now that we have our local file system wallet created, we can get the address, the public address of our wallet anytime using the Solana CLI, using the Solana address command. Now this will give us the address of our default key pair that is saved on our file system, or more specifically in the Solana configuration settings. If you had another particular file path that was here, you could specify the explicit path, and that will also give you the address. I don't have any other key pairs generated for this computer, so this isn't going to actually return anything because it won't actually find this file. Now that we have a local wallet actually generated, you can check the balance with it using the Solana balance command. And you can see here by default we have 0 SOL tokens in this wallet because we haven't requested an airdrop or transferred any amount to this wallet itself. So we can actually request that airdrop directly from inside of the Solana CLI using the Solana airdrop command. The Solana airdrop command takes one primary parameter of the actual amount of SOL you want to airdrop. So if you airdrop 1 SOL, you can see it gets confirmed by our local blockchain. 1 SOL gets deposited. And then if we run Solana balance again, we now can see that we have 1 SOL in our current wallet. You can airdrop a lot more SOL if you really want to, but there's a caveat to this. So I just airdropped 10,000 SOL on my local host, and that's only because I'm running this localhost validator. One thing that I want to point out is that on any other cluster, whether that's testnet or devnet, there is a limit of how many SOL tokens you can request an airdrop for at a time. So the transaction will actually fail on most of those if you request such a large airdrop. So if you need a lot of SOL tokens for that particular network cluster, you can just keep requesting a Solana airdrop of 1 and do that multiple times over and over to get as many SOL tokens as you need, because it's still free, kind of like paper trading, if you will, paper money that doesn't really exist because it's on the testnet or the devnet. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate what that looks like just so you can see it. So I'll change my Solana configuration to the testnet. And you can see now I'm currently on testnet, and now I'm using the same wallet address because the way that Solana addresses are generated, it's just that private public key, and that private key is still valid on every single Solana cluster. It's just the actual data that's stored with it, and that could be any of the metadata associated with your account, including how many SOL tokens you have or any other SPL tokens you have as part of your actual account and your address itself. That information is going to be different on every single cluster. So we still have the same key pair. So if I request the current balance, you can see that it took a little bit longer to run because we're reaching out to an external service. It's not this local network, and we have 0 SOL tokens. In fact, if I stop my local validator, pull this back up so you can see it, stop the local validator, I can run this again, and it still is going to run because we're connecting out to the testnet. Just like I was saying earlier, we can request an airdrop on any of these other networks, and we just specify the amount of SOL tokens we want to airdrop, and then we get that deposited to our account itself. Run the balance again, now we have 1 SOL. Now if I was to request an extremely large airdrop, you can see this actually has failed. We have a balance unchanged because I requested an airdrop of too high of a value, and that's just sort of a kind of like a rate limit almost that's baked into these different testing clusters. So I'll go ahead and select back to my local host. And now I'm back on my localhost cluster, and you can see right here in this window, my localhost is not running. And if I request another airdrop, we get an RPC error because it can't connect to the cluster. So that's what that error will look like. We'll go ahead and rerun the test validator, get it processing, and now we can request another very large airdrop, and we have our current balance. So the last thing I want to cover in this video is how to actually deploy a Solana program to the blockchain. Now I'm not going to get into the details of how to actually write Solana programs or really anything about this particular Solana program. Just know that we have a program, it's already been compiled, and it's ready to be deployed to the blockchain. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank terminal and run the Solana test validator inside of this separate terminal. So that way we have our localhost cluster running, and we're able to actually deploy our program to the localhost cluster. And just to demonstrate what my current Solana balance is for the account we were using earlier, right now it's at, some amount just less than 20,001 SOL tokens, just to demonstrate the approximate value it's going to take to deploy this very simple program that basically just prints a single message. So in order to deploy the program, we're going to need to use the Solana deploy command, and we need to tell it the file path for our compiled binary. And I'm not going to get into the depths of how to get this or where it particularly lives. Just know that in this case it is this hello world.so file, and you're always going to be deploying a .so file for Solana. And we can run this command. The transaction gets finalized, and it prints out the program ID of the program that just got deployed. Now we can check our balance again and see that our balance has changed just by a little bit, and you can see the true cost that it actually takes to deploy a Solana program. Now the amount of SOL it will take to deploy any particular program depends on a couple of factors, mainly being the actual compiled size of your program itself. This program is very, very tiny, it's very, very simple, so it doesn't require a whole lot of SOL, but even still, with the efficiencies that have been baked into the Solana blockchain and kind of how it works, it's always going to cost a relatively lower amount, especially compared to other layer 1 blockchains like Ethereum. So I hope you found this video on an introduction to the Solana CLI helpful, and I will catch you in the next one.